Hi, this is Caleb Owens with the Insurance Experience with Danny Rollins. Hi, Danny. How are you?
Good. How's it going, Caleb?
It's going really good. I'm really excited to talk to you. I talked to you a little bit before we started, but I'm actually really excited about this. You should be. Sounds really interesting to get to talk to you.
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, Danny, tell me about yourself and your background, where you came from, how you got started in the industry, things like that.
Sure. From native of Long Beach, California. Went to Long Beach Poly. From there, went to Cal State Long Beach. Interesting. Majored in liberal studies. Actually, ended up getting a degree in a master's in education a little bit later on. But I've been in the insurance industry for the past 9 years. Started out working with carriers like Allstate and AAA. Most of my experience is in property. So, the house floods, the fires, the theft losses, the vandalism, personal property. I've done it all in some shape, fashion, or form. When the car veers off and ramps into the side of the house, I've dealt with that. Garage door breaks and someone steps on the gas and instead of the brake and they run through their garage.
This really
dealt
happens. I take
yeah,
it.
it's real. That really happens. So
Wow. I thought it was just commercials, but this
oh
really
no,
does.
those commercials, I think the farmers guys do it. No,
Yeah.
that happens. You would be
Wow.
surprised when the family of raccoons sets up in the attic and things like that. And they got all kinds of different colorful molds growing in corners of the room because no one noticed the water leaks. Been in all kind of scenarios. Actually, for my career, transitioning from just the personal property, getting into more commercial. I'm going to be my next role. I'm going to be working with more public entities, more general liability, things of that nature. So more on a bigger scale. Let's say if a tree falls on a school building, those
Right.
can be bigger losses where we try to estimate those. And let's say if there was you're driving, there's a pothole on the road, damages your vehicle, and you want to hold the city liable for that damage. I'm going to be getting to that type of claim to see if there's any liability on my client's parts. That'll be my new adventure into claims handling.
Wow. Okay, you covered a lot of territory really quickly. So, Denny, it seems like you're really well educated. If I caught that correctly, you went through a lot of history very quickly. You are very well educated. You have a master's. Did you say that? Is that
Yeah,
correct?
I have a master's in
Wow.
education. Yeah, I do.
Wow. That's impressive. I'm sure that's pretty rare in your role. That's really rare to hear someone that's got a master's in education. That's really you are very well educated.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, I had thought about original goal was to get into. I didn't really want to be a teacher per se because I don't know if I can deal with the kids. I know teachers and all the drama they go through.
Sure.
So if I were to do it, I would do it at least the junior college level or university level, maybe like in an administrative role. I used to work at Cal State Long Beach in the business office, and where I was handling more of the financial aspect of the going to school, covering your tuition costs, student loans, and things of that nature. Did a little bit of employee payroll. If I were to do it, it would definitely be in some type of capacity. But yeah, hats off to those teachers that face those 20, 25 students every day.
Right.
Yeah, they're the real MVPs.
No, you're absolutely right. Okay, so take me through this. You started out with all that education, obviously wanted to be a teacher. How did you transition from that into the insurance?
Well, it was funny. I was attending Cal State Long Beach and I was finishing up my degree, but things happened. I needed to work, and then financially, school wasn't working for me. So I was actually a manager at FedEx office in
Sure.
downtown LA, and I was on that career path to managing my own store and maybe
Wow.
a couple of stores. So I was on that career path, and it
Yeah.
was funny. I ran into a friend of mine that I used to work with at Cal State Long Beach, not back when I used to do work study. Back in the day, you got financial aid. Part of the
Yeah.
package was like work study, where you actually work for your financial aid and things like that. They said at where I used to work at, they were offering full time positions. And one of the opportunities with that is you go to school for essentially for free, like pretty much go to part time for $3 a semester. And I
Okay.
was close to completing my degree. And I took the leap to do that because I felt in the long run, getting my degree would open up more doors and create more opportunities.
Sure.
Yeah, went ahead and did that and able to finish my degree. Fortunately, they had some budget cuts. This is back when Schwarzenegger was governor. They had all the budget cuts and there were a lot of furloughs. And I was on the my job was on the chopping block
Mm,
because they cut funding. So unfortunately, I had to leave there and I did a couple of other jobs in between. And then I came across AAA where they were offering, I was going to get into auto because I was always into cars and maybe I said I can help
sure.
adjust the auto claims, but I didn't get the position there. And I said, gosh, I really want to give the company and things like that. And they said, we have an opening in our home property department. Would you be interested? And I just took a shot and said, sure. And so that was back in 2014, where I just took a chance, something I've never done before. And
Wow.
as far as handling insurance and definitely property, as complex as it is, and yeah, I've been doing that type of work ever since. So yeah, one thing kind of led to another, and opportunities came to me unexpectedly. So I just went with it.
That's interesting. I'm glad you took me all the way up through that because that is I hear that a lot. You hear stories just like that, even from people that are really high up in companies. You think, man, like they must have really planned for this, and a lot of times they didn't. They just one thing led to another thing, and they just kept growing up in the company. But yours is very similar to that. It's just not necessarily something you plan from your birth or right after you left high school. I'm going to be in the property industry. It's just
I
not.
know,
It's not
yeah.
something most people plan on.
The insurance guy didn't come to school for career days, so
Exactly. Like the military recruiters. Yeah, they don't
so
really
it's
do that. All right, so that's really cool. Okay, so that's really interesting. Now I understand that. And then tell me, you've ran through this several different times now, but I know I'm going to be redundant. But so tell me about your day to day, you running through just different things with how you handle things with your, I guess that's the insured, how this happens. So tell me more about your day to day life, I guess.
day to day is really just it's really just on what kind of claims I'm getting. Typically, dispatch will get the call for a claim. New claim comes in, and if it's a claim in my area, it's especially when I was out in the field doing inspections in person with Allstate and AAA. Claims will come in. I look at it, see what the area is. If I know I had to go out to inspect, I would do the background on the insured, see what's their claim history, have they anything else like this similarly happen. Look at the age of the home because that's going to make a lot of determination on how I investigate. Of course, what type of loss we're dealing with, and just try to do my homework on the insured. So when I call them, I can have an idea of what's going on, so I can make sure I'm asking the right questions.
Wow.
So once I did that, give them a call, and Mr. Insured or Mrs. Insured, we say, hey, you know what? We had a water leak in our garage or a pipe burst, and we have water everywhere. So now I'm asking, okay, when did you find this? Have you shut the water off? That's a big thing. A lot of people find stuff, but they don't shut the water off. They don't contact the plumber. They don't do those things. So you gotta, it sounds obvious, but you have to ask, did you shut the water off? Have you called anybody out? Have you called your plumber out? Things like that. So I want to get a feel for what's going on, but at the same time, I want to make sure that I'm reassuring them that everything's going to be okay and don't worry about it. We're going to walk you through this process and get you through it because most people lifetime may have maybe one or two claims at their house
Right.
depending. So this is very traumatic
Yeah.
because now we're talking about now my work's going to be interrupted. Am
Yeah.
I going to be able to get the kids to school? I'm now caring for my elderly parents. Are we going to have to move them out of the house? I may
Hmm.
have someone else with special needs in the home. How is that going to affect them? So every aspect of the life is going to be disrupted. So I have to be sensitive towards that and try to make the best plan possible. So once I get a feel for the insured, then I go into attack mode. I'm calling my mitigation vendors. I'm calling my plumbers. I'm calling my contents people, and we're going out. I try to meet up with everybody on site. So I think having that presence makes the insurer feel good because now they have a team working to help them.
Yeah.
They have myself leading the charge. I got my specialists out there, my other vendors, and we're all going to come together and we're going to create a plan to get you back to normal as quickly as possible. So that's really what it is. It's really just providing that service, no matter if I'm doing the personal property. Now that I've got into the more commercial, it's not quite the same, but they still want that same level of service where I'm going in and making sure I'm reassuring everything. I'm putting that initial fire out. I'm triaging everything and making sure that things run smoothly. So that's really, it's about offering that personal care.
Wow. So it sounds like you're like a quarterback, if I'm giving a good enough analogy.
The
I mean,
signal
you are.
caller, yeah.
You are. You're the one out there coordinating everything and calling all the shots, getting everybody out there to make sure that they're showing up and that they're doing their jobs correctly. Wow, that's really, really impressive. And it's like you said as well, these can be, depending on the circumstances, these can be really traumatic experiences for people where we've seen it where people have lost loved ones,
Yeah,
in a
absolutely.
house fire that can
Absolutely.
be really difficult for them to, and they're not thinking clearly. If they've
Absolutely.
gone through something like that, they're not really thinking like a normal, rational person sitting in an office would be. They're like just scattered and they can't really put things together like they would otherwise. So that's like you said, you got to have compassion for people and what they're going through. This can be a very traumatic experience.
You're totally right. And those are my sad ones. I've had
Yeah,
situations where fires have broken out. I've talked to the wife because the husband's in ICU fighting for his life. And what I'm a stranger, what can I really say? I've had a situation of this insured, he was cooking at home and had a medical emergency and caused a grease fire and ended up being rushed to the hospital. I've had people who were living alone and they passed away at home and no one's found them for like over a week. Where they so now you had a situation where you got to get the special cleanup crew because to remove the remains. It's really
wow.
yeah. So it can be the water loss is a pretty typical. I can handle those, but yeah, the ones where involving serious injury and or death, those are tough because it's like I said, it's extremely emotional. The surviving friends and family trying to deal with them and trying to be as gentle as you can in this situation, but still do your job. Because we can. The problem with adjusters, if we do it so long, I can tell people I know exactly how this claim's going to end. I
Oh,
know it.
really?
I can predict the future. Not saying that depending on what kind of loss it is and what's going on, I can tell you pretty much how long it's going to take to fix it, how much it's going to cost to fix it, and
Wow.
what needs to be done. It's just we do it. He said most people get a claim maybe once or twice in their lifetime. I do this sometimes 10 times a week. So, yeah, when you've done it for so long, being like an emergency room doctor, you've seen this so many times, but you can't let that kind of jade you and not you can lose your compassion because it's like it's not that big of a deal. I know, don't worry about it, we can fix it, but again, you have to remind yourself they don't know
Hmm.
because you have to adjust a claim for that person. You have to adjust a claim for their neighbor advising them, their relative to live across town, because everyone has their own horror stories. And then we're also to combat the stigma. The insurance companies don't care. They're going to cut every corner. They're not here to help you. So you have to combat all those things when you're adjusting. So you have to keep that in mind.
Wow. You're saying so much. That's really interesting because you're absolutely right. There is a lot of stigma. I've talked to a lot of public adjusters as well. And there's some that are really well rounded. They see it all as like a one team. We're all together. We're all trying to accomplish one objective, which is trying to get that client, that insured, back in their home. There's others that I've talked to that have been really, they definitely think exactly like you said, that the insurance company's out there to cut corners at all costs and is just out there for their bottom line. And so I'm more like you saying, is more in the middle of ground. It's just like we're all out there trying to accomplish one goal, which is trying to get that client back into their house and make everything whole again as much as we can. It's not
Absolutely.
always possible.
And then now that you mention it, I know you mentioned public adjusters. Honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of a public adjusters. And I understand their agenda and why they're brought in and what they're trying to accomplish, which I get. However, I tell an insured, you're paying a premium every year for a reason.
Hmm.
If you're not even trying to attempt to work with your insurance company initially, and you go straight to a public adjuster, that's the part I really can't understand, because there's not, there is no bad faith here. There isn't no situation where I told you no, or I said we're not going to do it, because we're so regulated now through the Department of Insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Where years ago it was Wild West, so to speak, where you really have someone to be an advocate for you. But now there are so many measures in place where we have to do things by according to the law. I
Hmm.
have to contact you by a certain time. I have to give you written notification by a certain time. I have to keep you updated. There isn't any, to me, especially if you work for one of the big carriers, there aren't any shady backroom deals going on where even our vendors have to operate above board, because we're
Right.
constantly auditing them and to make sure they do what we need them to do. To bring in a public adjuster, to me, that should be your last resort, where
Hmm.
you're at an impasse and you really feel that you're not getting what you need. Because a public adjuster, their role is, they're going to come out with ultimately an inflated estimate that we're not going to cover, and then we're gonna have to find some way to meet in the middle. And I'm thinking, if you had to work with me from the beginning, we could have avoided all of this and not pay
Hmm.
them. And plus, you have to pay those public adjusters. They're not
They
doing
pay
this
him
for
a lot, I mean,
a
depending on the
lot of
state.
money. Yeah,
I don't know in California, but in different states, it can be 30%, 40%.
absolutely,
That's a
absolutely.
lot of
So
money.
you're double paying. You're paying the premium,
Mhm.
then you have to pay someone else. And we could have worked with you. When I was at AAA, we had a great vendor program. I could bring in contractors, and then who
Mhm.
offer warranty. If our contractors don't do what they're supposed to do, I can advocate on your side that, hey,
Right.
Acme Construction, you need to get over there and and resolve the issue. If you bring in public adjusters and your own contractors, my hands are tied. Then
Right.
you're subject to their schedule and their fees and this and things and
Yep.
that. So I would just recommend to any homeowner, try to work with your insurance company first and see what they're talking about. Work with your adjuster before bringing in a third party that's going to say charge you an arm and a leg to do the same job I'm already paid to do. So
Yeah. I appreciate your opinion. It's definitely good to hear. I don't hear that side, your side, very often, because most people that work directly for the carrier, especially like yourself, a large carrier, they're not as opinionated, or they probably are opinionated. They're just not as likely to voice their opinion. You hear a lot more public adjusters voicing their opinions very loudly.
yeah,
Um,
and believe me, I've had my battles with public adjusters, and like I get there are some public adjusters that are pretty much, we want to get this house fixed or whatever, and they're pretty above board. Then
right.
you have the ones that pretend to be New York attorneys and try to use pressure and scare tactics, and I'm gonna record you so I can catch you slipping up on something so I can turn it against you. And
Wow.
yeah,
Done
I've
that
had that
too.
at home. This
Wow.
guy, he was the public adjuster, and we battled. And he came in trying to record me, looking for a slip up, so to speak. If I'm not quoting the law correctly or DOI correctly, so they can try to use it against me. And I'm like, no, I know my job. I know what I'm doing. You're not going to bait me. I'm going to go ahead and be a professional. Okay.
Wow.
And I'm like, first of all, I can't even take you seriously. You showed up here with a Hawaiian shirt on and flip flops, like you're going to a backyard barbecue, but you want me to take you seriously as a public adjuster. A little unprofessional to come to someone's home to conduct business. That's just me, but okay.
I take it this happened. I take it this actually happened one day. That's funny.
Yeah, it's a true story. Yeah,
Wow.
Republicans. I mean, most are good, but then if they feel they're not getting their way, then they want to try to yell at you and try to intimidate you over the phone. And I'm like, look, cut the tough guy act, okay? It's not going to work on me. All right,
Wow.
let's remain professional. Let's do what we need to do. I know you have a job to do, and I have one as well. And you're not going to throw me off of my game to keep me from doing the job I know I can do. So don't
Wow.
do that. If you want to work with me in good faith, then we can do that. But all the other tricks that you're trying to pull, I've heard them all. It doesn't work on me. You have lawyers. Guess what? We got lawyers too.
Right. That's interesting. Your overall point with that is, like you said, is that as long as you're dealing with a large carrier, which a good majority of people are, and you're dealing with, and I would caveat that with what state you're in matters a tremendous difference. Depending on what state, you can be talking about radically different laws, and those laws will impact people's lives ultimately.
Absolutely.
I would presume that in California, they would have very strict laws
Oh,
on.
absolutely. Absolutely. The one thing you don't want to get is a complaint from the Department of Insurance, because
Oh,
when that happens, it sets off alarm bells from me, my manager, his boss, and the boss's boss.
wow.
Those are taken extremely seriously, and those have to be answered within a certain amount of time. That is the one thing as a adjuster you don't want to happen. So because
Mm,
everyone is gonna have to answer as to why this happened. And if that ever does, whatever situation's out there, it's gonna get resolved. There's no sweeping it underneath the rug. So we know that as adjusters that DOI is involved, the DOI complaint, even if sometimes we feel it's valid or invalid, it doesn't matter. So that's going to be taken extremely seriously. So I can say to the consumer, you're protected, because if not, the fines are crazy. I
wow.
can end up losing my job, or my manager can lose his job, and the company can be fined a lot.
Wow.
Being so that's to the consumer, you are in the state of California, you don't have to worry, because that there are measures in place to protect the consumer.
Wow. Wow. No, you make a valid point. Wow. That's really interesting. And the thing is that there's a lot of people that don't know that. A lot of people have no clue what the DOI is, Department of Insurance, right? They don't
Mhm.
even know that exists. And you're educating people. This is a good thing. This is the whole point of all this podcast is you're saying something I never even would have talked about otherwise.
Yeah,
That's
Kel,
really good.
if you want to, we can host a separate podcast called
Okay.
"Is It Covered," where we can talk about different claim
That's a
scenarios
great idea.
and see if there's situations where should I file a claim, should I not file a claim, or how does it affect me? I do. I love. When I was at AAA, we had a system where people could call us to ask general claim questions. I would understand what's going on and be like, yeah, you know what? You could probably call a handyman. They probably knock that out for $100, and there's some
Right.
drywall and some paint. If you get us involved, then it's a whole to do.
Because people don't
So
know
yeah,
that. They don't know these things. Like
yeah,
there's a calculation. Like, okay, I've got a $2,000 or $5,000. What is it?
deduct,
Deductible. That's what I was.
right,
Is this really going to be worth it? And you should do your own math and say, okay, that's just a hole in the wall. There's no reason to get insurance involved on that. There's no way I'm going to meet my deductible. And so it's just
right.
better, like you said, just to call a handyman, get them to come out and fix it. But that's a great. I love your idea. We'll do another podcast in the future. We'll do like a special episode with just you because you seem very knowledgeable about all these different claims. But I wanted to ask you because you keep alluding to this, you're in commercial claims now, correct?
Correct.
Can you tell me about that? Tell me the differences because you've already told me a little bit, but tell me more about that. What do you see differences between working a residential as opposed to now commercial claim side?
The projects are on a larger scale. That's the thing. Like most home losses are typically 10,000 or less, unless you have something catastrophic like a house fire or a flood. But most home losses, they're not that big. With commercial property, yeah, they're we're looking typically 30, 40, 50,000, couple hundred thousands. And there's some departments that handle claims into the millions. So it's
Right.
the and then dealing with home, you're dealing with a homeowner. It's pretty straightforward. It says, here's the estimate, your contractor, we're done. This takes a lot. There's a lot of more steps have to be done The policies are written differently as far as like the home policy. Typically, you're dealing with someone in risk management. For, let's say, for example, I used to work with big school district up in Northern California. They'll file a claim in the office, but you're dealing with the property, the risk manager for that department. They're going to have they have their own set of contractors. You got their estimates, and then from there you get approval. And once approval is done, they actually complete the project, which can take several weeks or months. Then they send back the completed invoice to you saying, okay, work is done. Here's the final invoice. Then that's when we pay out. So normally for a home, we pay out before the work starts. With commercial, we're after the work starts. So typically project, they have to have a board approve it and things.
Wow.
It is a lot of bit more red tape, so to speak, to get
Sounds like
projects approved and get money allocated. And a lot of times it's public funding, so there's more steps to get those funds approved. So it's more streamlined with personal property versus commercial. With the commercial, yeah, there's definitely you got to get a few more people to say, okay, you can get some money approved.
Wow. Sounds like a lot more complex. The same
Yeah,
concept overall, but a lot more
it is.
complex.
Yeah, they definitely, like I said, I can get a home claim resolved in less than 30 days, depending on
Wow.
the law. Sometimes I can get a home claim resolved, depends on the law. These are going to take minimum, it could be 3 to 6 months. Sometimes it can take a year, depending on the scope of the loss, depending on if additional investigation is needed, depending on getting their contractors in, getting approved, then getting their board members to approve it. So there's just more. It's just more steps have to be done, and because you're dealing with a public entity or commercial, sometimes we're not always priority as far as getting things done unless it's like a major loss. But if it's just one particular building where it's there, but it's not really affecting the day-to-day operations, you're asking people for documents and they say, oh, I'll get back with you. You wait a couple of weeks. Oh, I've been busy. I'll get those documents over to you. You have to constantly do a lot more follow-up and documentation to try to see things through. So yeah, it's just essentially the same thing, just longer.
That's interesting. Okay. I don't have any other questions. Do you have anything else to add?
No, it's just that the claim. I think what I've seen in the claim industry is getting more technologies being used. I've done virtual inspections where through different apps, and I was able to access the insurer's camera phone, and they can actually walk me through their home, and I can my desk and see all the
Wow.
damages and take pictures and assess that way. So I think as technology is moving, they're trying to find a way to streamline the process where there's less con after this pandemic. I don't like going to people's homes as much. I will do it if you can avoid. Some people don't want the contact and want strangers in the home. I've had people who really are really concerned about that still. Even before the pandemic, there's some people I put booties on. I can walk on their floors and stuff, especially
Yeah.
nowadays. They're really concerned about having germs or anything in the home that can get anyone sick. So I can respect it. So I see the bigger companies, they're really trying to use more technology to make it more convenient, make
Mhm.
it safer for everyone to come
Right.
out, and everyone still works, but someone would have to like take off work and for me to come out and do that, and then I can create an inconvenience there. So just really looking to find ways to make it more convenient for the customer. If we can work through the ads, if we can take photos, have them sent to us where we don't actually have to go out. Even in the commercial side, we do a lot of Zoom meetings where I don't have to meet in person with the people making decisions for the different districts. That anything, anytime saving measures and make things more efficient. That's what I'm seeing. And also, that's on the last point. Just I would say, depending on where you live at, just be careful. So you live like in a wildfire area because a lot of insurance companies they don't want to cover homes in those areas. So
No.
if you live in those type of areas, just make sure you're aware that make sure your carrier is okay with that and make sure you're taking all the precautions that you can possibly do if you live in an area that's subject to natural disaster. So just be aware that we can I know someone personally who got their policy canceled, no fault of theirs, but just the fact on where they live. So just be aware
Which is going
that,
on all over the US now. You're mentioning California, but it's going on in places that you would have never, ever expected
yeah,
happening, especially we're seeing flooding in the Northeast that historically have not had that level of flooding. And it's happening from California with the wildfires, and obviously Florida and all these other states with the hurricanes coming in more intense than they have been in the past. So, yeah, you're absolutely right that you need to think about where you live, and then also what you can do to do your best to try to mitigate those risks as much as you can as your homeowner, correct?
absolutely. And that's not, and not to defend the industry, but these claims are expensive. Those fire
Right.
claims are super expensive. They can, and this is my point back to the public adjuster. Every time there's a fire, they come out for these smoke and ash claims wanting tens of thousands of dollars for these losses. And then we have to go out to see, okay, how severe is it? It can just be some soot and nothing to get power wash when it's fixed. So there's a lot of resources being deployed to address these issues. So I would say they're just trying to they try to cover themselves not to be exposed to so much risk. So it's not just because these claims are super expensive. The water
Yeah,
losses are super expensive.
right.
Everyone's remodeling their kitchens, and a small leak from a water filtration system can cost $40,000 in one room. So they're looking at all of this stuff and deciding how they want to affect policies and premiums. So just be
Yeah,
aware.
because they have to be solvent as well.
Yeah,
It's not
absolutely.
just a
They're
matter of
still a
they're just
business.
making. Yeah, exactly. So they have to think and take all of that stuff into consideration. So you're absolutely correct that it is tremendously expensive. All these major natural disasters that we're seeing all over the country, to whereas these companies that are large companies, by the way, are even having to take a step back and say, wait a minute, we can't continue to insure in some of these states. Like I've seen some high profile names leave California as
Yeah,
well as Florida. So they're
yeah,
definitely have to take a step back.
absolutely. It is, yeah, like I said, just do the best you can to mitigate the risk. Okay, know your house and check your roof, make sure it's in good condition, check your plumbing, make sure everything is good. And all you can do is that once a year, you should probably just go through your house top to bottom, make sure all the systems are working and everything's in good shape.
Danny, I really appreciate your time. I'm gonna take you up on your offer. I hope you were serious. I want to
Oh
do
yeah,
another
I would
one.
love it. Yeah, let's
Is
do it.
this
Yeah,
covered? What are we gonna call it? Is this covered or not?
call it "Is This Covered?" and we
Is this
can talk
covered?
about different type of losses. And there's several different scenarios where your neighbor may have a water claim, but yours is totally different. They're like
Right.
snowflakes or fingerprints, look similar but different
Right.
nuances. So
No,
yeah,
you're
we can do
absolutely
that.
right. That
Let's
sounds like
do it.
a great idea and very educational for a lot of people. We can put this on TikTok and different
Yeah,
sites like that and actually educate people on, is this covered or not? Watch a little TikTok video before you call your insurance company up. Good idea.
absolutely. Yeah, let's do it.
Excellent, Danny. I really appreciate you, and I look forward to doing another one with you here in the near future.
Sounds great, Caleb. Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay, thanks. You too.
Thanks.
Hi, this is Caleb Owens with Premier Insurance Housing. Do you need help with ALE or temporary housing for your policyholders or clients? If so, we would love to help out. We offer a wide range of services, and we offer our services nationwide. We offer mobile homes and fifth wheels to single family homes and apartments. To request our services, just click the link in the description or give us a call, 405 604 0786. Thank you.